Greetings, my fellow free love silent thinkers. This is LL3's newest podcast. My name is Craig, transmitting from the beautiful swampy mangroves of South Florida. And today's date, Monday, July 10th, 2017. Yes, it is raining down here in Fort Lauderdale. And it looks like it's cleared up, so it's going like a little back and forth. Plus, I'm at CJ's Java Lounge, located at 400 Southwest 1st Avenue, Suite 1, along the New River of Fort Lauderdale. Right in the southwest corner of the Andrews Avenue Bridge. Always like them to have me do my show here with folks and support mom and pa's. Alright? Okay, so I just decided to do another episode. Just found something that's pretty interesting. So I'm like, take the initiative on doing this. And I finished watching the movie off of Netflix called Where Twisted Effing Sister. A documentary about how the band Twisted Sister got around. Great story. And what's cool about it, because these certain documentaries about bands, you don't have to be a fan of their music, but you can appreciate the history on how they came about. And another one I recommend you folks check out, it should be on Hulu. It's called Band in DC, which is about the Bad Brains, how their little adventures, and they became an icon in the music scene, music industry as well. So you'd be surprised who's fans of that band too. Okay, cool. So we're just gonna hit some things, hit some topics here. It's caught my eye. And first off, this one was actually originally came from Waking Times. Is it Waking Times? Yeah. So it was published from there, but Activist Post is posted on here as well. And it's entitled "School Ditches Common Core, Then Soar to #1 in English Language Arts." This is by Alex Petrosky. And as it reads, the federally mandated nationally standardized education program Common Core has many parents and teachers concerned. For starters, it imposes rigorous testing onto students, forcing curriculums to be molded around exams, not necessarily around learning or the development of critical thinking. Additionally, Common Core is part of a system developed by corporations and aimed to prepare children for the life of being an employee and not a change maker. Yes, like, yes, master, may I have another? Yes, sir, I will do that for you. Will you bend over to get a promotion? Yes, how far, please? The program is causing friction around the nation. A slow burn rebellion of sorts is underway. In 2015, fourth grader Cindy Smoot made national headlines when she eloquently ripped standardized testing at a school board meeting. And that came out around 2015. There's a YouTube on there. Really good. She headed out of the ballpark. I know it really offended some of those sympathizers or federalized Uncle Toms and Aunt Jemimas in the school board. All right. So what happens to a school and students therein when Common Core is abandoned altogether? Mason Classical Academy, a charter school in Naples, Florida, which is west of Fort Lauderdale in Collier County, to be exact, has been applauded for its testing results in English language arts after the school ditched Common Core. In a letter to parents of MCA, Principal David Hall explained the dilemma facing the school and its students. There is, however, a serious conundrum we face as a classical public charter school. Not only we are using to use our own curriculum and offer a different choice than the regular public schools, but we are also mandated to pass the state test. This begs some questions. Which is more critical, a solid education or passing state tests? Can we accomplish delivering both? It is ethical to focus more on state standards than a rigorous curriculum influenced by one of the most prestigious colleges in the world, Hillside College, and we able to accomplish our mission with states, mandates, and Common Core breathing down our necks? Do we have our students practice for state tests on computers because tests are now computer-based? Are our students at an automatic disadvantage because we choose paper and pencil over keyboards and mice? These are difficult questions to answer, and one that will be revealed by not only by time. To confront this issue head on, the school tried something of which many others should take notice. It developed its own educational standards based on proper discipline on the parts of students, respectful dedication on the parts of teachers, and a platform of virtues that have been historically been prevalent in classical education. Character traits such as respect, integrity, citizenship, and responsibility are not only explicitly taught during assemblies, but are embedded throughout our classical literature, history, and fine arts instruction. Where are those standards mandated by the state? That's a good question. Among this pragmatic shift at MCA was a return to phonics-based learning when teaching young children how to read. Common Core has been widely criticized for complicating the process by which children learn to read, confusing them by making them memorize whole words before learning how to read sounds and recognize syllables. In short, Common Core abandoned phonics-based learning, and when MCA returned to this approach, the results were outstanding. It is hardly surprising either to learn that students at MCA were at the top across Florida as well. Third graders at MCA were in the top 2% in the state. In fifth grade, MCA students were in the top 1% of Florida. The results speak for themselves. Furthermore, thanks to the classical approach of phonics, an impressive 90% of the third grade students at Mason Classical Academy were proficient in English language arts, compared to just 58% in the county overall, most of whom rely on Common Core. In fact, the MCA third graders were in Florida's top 2%, while fifth graders from the academy ranked in the state's top 1%. In today's conformist culture, it is no surprise that MCA has been attacked by others for the willingness to take control of their own standards, even though the results speak for themselves. Final thoughts. For those serious about exposing Common Core, it is clear that as a conspiracy, the program appears to be designed to crush divergent thinking, offering an off-road into our minds of our children, which is to be exploited by the interests of the state. Common Core children are not allowed to synthesize latent creativity, and they spend little time in nature. They're also not given an inspiring human mentor as much as by the book curriculum regurgitating teacher. Hope I pronounced that correctly, okay? Who has also been dumbed down by the educational system. This person is more concerned through their own educational brainwashing to apply the latest psychological theories without truly teaching a child to be on fire for learning. Intelligence agencies also infiltrate the educational system in order to train and recruit future elite personnel. People are chosen based on their ability to follow orders, not to diverge from the transhumanist agenda. Common Core is a massive takeover of the educational system, similar to the takeover of the agricultural system, our water, our banking system, etc. In short, it benefits the military-industrial complex and a handful of corporations, not your children's budding intellectual genius. So, how long will it be before other schools in America see the light and follow MCA in ditching Common Core? That is absolutely, I believe, the great state of Florida needs to abolish this thing completely. And you can tell that piece of humanoid, Joseph Ellis Bush or Jeb, he can stick it. Former governor of Florida will try to promote Common Core. Please, this is nothing more. Common Core is nothing more for a Orwellian technocratic world. Creative control is essential. Inspiring kids to learn is our obligation. And we need to take, each of us need to take the initiative on making sure they learn to think for themselves instead of being some confounded number to the herd conformed system. I am very pleased with the MCA in Naples has achieved. It proves once again states' rights. States should control the education rather than some federalized, useless Department of Education that's in Washington, D.C., trying to tell every school within our nation and tell our students how to read, how to wipe their butts, and how the teachers should be like wearing cowboys around their necks. No, you're working antimatter. We know better than you. You know what? Please spare the moment. This is why the Department of Education, the U.S. Department of Education to be exact, are being such a contemptuous entity. And money being pissed away, all right, being pissed away, only 10% of it, you can say beneficial, according to Washington Waste. What's that book by Martin Gross? It's called Government Racket Washington Waste from A to Z. Good book you folks should check out when you have a chance. The Orwellian state is a sham. Common Core is useless. And being a herd conformist gets you nowhere. Just another field peasant. I never want to see the children have that mindset. I love to see them. Okay, there's nothing wrong teaching them to type, go on a computer, but it's always good for them to handwrite as well, because that is important. I know some of the school systems, they're trying to get rid of cursive. Why? You should encourage it, not discourage. So, gotta give that academy a thumbs up, and anyone that's fighting Common Core, keep the fire lit. One flame can engulf a mill. All right? So, okay, next one here came from Free Thought Project, and it came out by Matt Agarist. Came out today as well. It says, court affirms citizens have the right to defend themselves against police brutality. Newark, New Jersey. A court case was decided this month by appellate court in New Jersey, which affirmed that citizens are allowed to defend themselves against police brutality. The court's decision is involved in the case of Darnell Reed, who was beaten to a bloody pulp by officers during an arrest in 2013 in which he faced multiple charges. A jury found him not guilty on 7 of the 8 charges, with the only guilty charge being that of resisting arrest. However, the appellate court ruled last week that Reed was denied a fair trial in the instance, as a jury had not been instructed to consider whether or not Reed had the right to defend himself against police brutality. Now, I gotta say this to people who want to be in jury duty: freedom of conscience is essential. I will continue on here. On April 1st, 2013, Reed was targeted by 2 police officers who claimed they saw him holding a brick of heroin. The officer claimed that Reed ran from them and then resisted when they attempted to bring him in. However, as the court noted, it is likely that the jury found aspects of the testimony of the state's witnesses to be less than credible. Given these circumstances, the evidence of guilt can hardly be characterized as overwhelming. 2 officers were identified in court records as Louis Weber and Manuel Soto. They were dressed in plain clothes and were in an unmarked car when they attempted to apprehend Reed. As New Jersey NJ 1015 reports, the cops reportedly struck Reed's ribs and threw him to the ground. His face was left bloodied and swollen. His blood covered the ground. The appellate decision says more than 10 of his dreadlocks were forcibly ripped from his scalp. Reed had to be hospitalized and still suffer from the pain in his ribcage. To come to their decision, the court referenced a long-standing precedent set, State versus Molehill, which notes, in effectuating the arrest of a temporary detention of officers employs excessive and unnecessary force. The citizen may respond or counter when the use of reasonable force to protect himself, and if doing so the officer has injured, no criminal offense has been committed. As the court noted, a citizen loses privilege of self-defense if he knows if he submits to the officer excessive use of force will cease. However, the court explained that self-defense instruction to the jury is required even if the defense attorney does not require it. Viewed most favorably to the defendant, the evidence supported a finding that the officer used unnecessary excessive force against the defendant, thereby providing a rational basis for a self-defense charge. Therefore, the trial court should have given the jury a self-defense charge as part of its resisting arrest instructions. Kelly Super 97NJ at 200. State versus Sims, which is a court case and all that. Apparent Appellate Division 2004. The failure to instruct the jury that legitimate self-defense is a justification for resisting arrest where the facts reasonably could support that the defense constitutes plain error. Because the officers were found to have used excessive force and severely injured Reed, the court noted that Reed would have been justified in defending himself against his abuse. Therefore, the defendant was entitled to the self-defense charge, and his omission from the jury instructions was plain error. While this case is not held as a precedent, the court's opinion is not without merit. Self-defense is a natural right when laws are in place to protect incompetent police by removing one's ability to protect oneself simply because the aggressor has a badge and a uniform. That is a human rights violation. Remember, the police are considered governmental delegates, and I say that out of respect. The ruling is also supported by Indiana law, which allows for citizens to shoot at police officers who unlawfully enter their homes. And there was a case on that. In that case, Indiana took action to recognize the unique character of citizens' homes and to ensure that citizens feel secure in his or her own home against unlawful intrusion by another individual or public servant. While some people may fear-monger over rulings and laws like this one, they are missing the point entirely. The point is not to create an environment where people fight back against the police. The point is to create an environment in which police don't act in the ways that make innocent citizens have to fight back. And that is absolutely correct. Well, Mr. Agarist. And so, this is a real good case, and I'm glad this was brought out. Because here's one thing for sure. Technically, the police aren't obligated to protect you as an individual, but they should never have the authority on harassing anyone, especially if you've done nothing wrong. In the past, even it's been stories too and reports that the police are being more aggressive and to arrest many people as possible. This is according to Dale Carson, who wrote the book Arrest Proof Yourself. So yes, self-defense is a natural right. As far as I'm concerned, if you see people getting beat up, innocent people, you're entitled to help that person. Even if it's a police, it doesn't matter. Because tyranny is unacceptable, my friends. I'm not saying going out there just to start trouble. No, that's a totally different ballgame. But when it's necessary. And I know some of the corrupt individuals within that institution may not like it, but you know what? I could care less. Too bad. If you don't like it, be a Walmart greeter. They're hiring. Enough of that. But nicely done. I'm very happy to read that. And this next one here, originally, if I'm correct, this one came from, originally, came from the Free Thought Project as well, Rachel Belvins, and it was at Activist Post again. Came out yesterday to be exact. Pro-Second Amendment Trump sends in feds to confiscate guns in Chicago. Yeah, I read something like this a couple of days ago too from the Ron Paul Peace and Prosperity article. And it says here, it's by Rachel Blevins, The city of Chicago saw a staggering number of homicides last year, with over 760 murders in 2016. Trump is combating the problem by following Obama's footsteps and ramping up the confiscation of illegal guns, and he's using the federal government for assistance. The Chicago Gun Crime Strike Force is now made up of both Chicago police and 20 agents from the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, because the federal agents bring their technology and weapons with them. The city now has access to a van outfitted with ballistic testing equipment specifically devoted to targeting illegal guns and repeat gun offenders. During a news conference on June 30th, acting U.S. Attorney Joe Levin said prosecutors are working on increasing federal gun prosecutions, and his office has prosecuted more federal gun crimes this year than all of 2016. And in 2016, his office prosecuted more such cases than it had in a decade. As a homicide rate skyrocketed in summer 2016, the Chicago police claimed they seized nearly 6,000 guns, making the average rate one gun seizure per every 59 minutes. This practice is nothing new, as a report on the gun confiscations in Chicago revealed that in 2012, police seized 7,624 guns, which was more per capita than New York City and Los Angeles combined. All the guns Chicago police are confiscated as defined as illegal guns, and has raised the questions what exactly makes these guns and their owners illegal. As with many things that are prohibited in the United States, guns are illegal because the government says they're illegal. That's right. Assume, kind of, sort of, because we say so. If you had some guns in that club the night that this took place, if you had guns on the other side, you wouldn't have had the tragedy that you had, Trump said in a CNN interview after last year's tragic shooting in Orlando, noting that only the good guys with guns can stop bad guys with guns. With the thousands of gun confiscations taking place in Illinois, there are undoubtedly good people losing their means of self-defense to Trump's gun-confiscating army. And of course, the Orlando shooting or Pulse nightclub in Belle Isle, you could thank the Florida statute that made that nightclub a soft target, a firearm-free zone. That I talked about that. You can look it up. You can look it up last year's archives. I did three stories on that about the Orlando shooting, and I got people supporting it, so I thank them for that. As I said, Trump has even made note that strict gun laws in Chicago do nothing to stop gun violence. As the bad guys will always find a way to get guns, and he had a little tweet here on July 10, 2014. The most stringent gun laws in the U.S. happen to be in Chicago, and look what is happening there. While Illinois doesn't actually have the toughest gun laws, it is known that for some of the strictest gun laws in the U.S. and is currently ranked at 8th out of all 50 states of the Gun Law State Scorecard created by the Pro-Gun Control Law Center to prevent violence. Ranking is largely due to the requirement for all gun owners in the state to obtain a fire owner's identification card or FOID card from state police. Illinois then passed a law in August 2016 to make it a felony for anyone to do so much as to bring a gun into a state for the purpose of selling, delivering, or transferring it without a FOID ID card. Can we say privilege? Absolutely. Based on a tweet from President Trump on June 30th, which he said, crime and killings in Chicago have reached such epidemic proportions that I'm sending in federal help. One might think that this is his plan all along. And he made that statement on June 30th in his tweet. Crime and killings in Chicago have reached such epidemic proportions that I'm sending in the federal help. 1,714 shootings in Chicago this year. However, as pointed out above, it should be noted that, as with many things, Trump has vastly different sentiments towards gun violence in Chicago when he was on the campaign trail. During a debate against Democratic nominee Hillary Clinton on October 19, 2016, Trump criticized the amount of gun violence in Chicago despite the strict laws. In Chicago, which there was the toughest gun laws in the United States, probably you could say by far they have more gun violence than any other city. So we have the toughest laws and you have the tremendous gun violence, Trump said. I'm a very strong supporter of the Second Amendment. As a Free Thought Project reported in August 2015, one group of Chicago moms combated the level of violence by taking it to the streets and helping those in need. As a result, violence began declining in one of the most city's dangerous neighborhoods. There you go. Love and attention and so forth. Passion. People really need that. The current tactics used by the Chicago police, including the mass confiscation of guns, have been ongoing for years, and even through thousands of guns are confiscated each year, the number of homicides continues to climb. While The addition of the federal government's agents and their equipment will certainly increase the number of gun control confiscations. It will also likely increase the death toll, raising the question of when city and state officials will start looking to the root of the problem and stop increasing the power of the police state. So that's why, like I said, it is very treacherous on what they're doing, making it into like an Orwellian community in Chicago. Can this be a testing ground for it? Absolutely. This is an example. And with the parents trying to really moms and parents going out there in the streets, giving these kids who are in this environment an opportunity to better themselves. Yeah, I think that would be a good way of doing it, showing love, compassion, and respect. A lot of these people in those cities, for an example, never had that grasp. They don't have those role models. And what's really disturbing too is that you have to really observe, even with the drug war, it's a total deception. That too affects everybody, and probably with that, and have people in Illinois or Chicago to defend themselves, which is a natural law. Not going around playing Rambo or anything like that. Absolutely not. But protect yourself and your families and people you care about from these individuals who had that criminal mindset. So, and we can look at right here too about this FOID ID, which is a total sham. It violates the right to privacy. And like it says right here in Section 1 of the Article 1 of the Illinois Constitutional Bill of Rights, Section 1, inherited and inalienable rights. All men are by nature free and independent and have certain inherited and inalienable rights, among which are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. To secure these rights and the protection of property, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers for the consent of the governed. And of course, you can use the due process and equal protection, which I should have put it in there. No person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process, or law may be denied the equal protection of the laws. And we can go even down to 16 of this article, and we can go down here, and it says here ex post facto laws and impairing contracts. No ex post facto law or law impairing the obligation of contracts or making them irrevocable grant of special privileges and immunities shall be passed. So right there, you can see these so-called tough gun laws they have in Illinois is actually a de facto. And we can hit 22 as well. Subject only to the police power, the right of individual to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. So you don't really need an ID. Okay, you don't really need an ID. The FOID, that pathetic FOID card, unacceptable. All right, and of course, certain rights, a frequent recurrence to the fundamental principles of civil government is necessary to preserve the blessings of liberty. These blessings cannot endure unless the person recognizes the corresponding individual obligations and responsibilities, which are fundamental principles. And it says here, the 424, the rights attained, the enumeration in this Constitution of certain rights should not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the individual citizens of the state, which is actually close to it is the 9th Amendment U.S. Constitution. And it looks like I may have goofed somewhere. Hold on here. I think I should have had it right down here about search and seizures. Did I say that? Did I put it in there? Let me see here. I think I made a mistake here. No. Victims' rights? No. Sorry about this. I know I goofed somewhere. Hi, man. Yeah, Chapter 6. Okay, I forgot to talk about Chapter 6. Searches, seizures, privacy, and interception. The people should have the right to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and other possessions against unreasonable searches, seizures, invasions of privacy, or interceptions of communications by eavesdropping device or other means. No warrant shall issue without probable cause, supported by the affidavit, particularly describe the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. Invasion of privacy, the same thing again. These privileges, the FOID ID card, the concealed weapons permit, it's an invasion of your privacy. Something to think about. Okay, and of course the police protection myth in Illinois as well. So I know there'll be claims that it's been repealed and all that, but I wouldn't take it for granted. So the people in Chicago got to exercise their rights, not just in the Bill of Rights of the U.S. Constitution, but the state constitution, their own state constitution as well. So any of these laws, okay, gun laws in Chicago are null and void, and the Ford ID card is illegal as well. So you have to exercise these and make sure that people in Illinois, even Chicago, especially Chicago, to teach, spread this message, educate yourselves, and share it with others. Because the fact is this, my friends, the government needs you more than you need them when you start creating the knowledge. Knowledge is freedom, and ignorance is slavery. And as far as I'm concerned with this thing with Trump using the federal government to seize firearms, I don't trust the ATF at all. As far as I'm concerned, they should be abolished. That's it on that aspect. Okay, and this one came in from Mize, came out a few days ago on the Mize Wire. It says here, more arrests of Mize's activists by Cuban police. This is by Zach Foster. Seven Cuban libertarians and activists with the Mize Mambi Institute of Cuba were arrested on Friday morning. Among those arrested were Curiel Ramirez, a national spokesman, Nelson Rodriguez, Chart Rand, and Alex Munoz Jimenez, the Mize Mambi regional president for Camagüey province. The motivation of the mass arrest seems to prevent the Cuban libertarians from attending the trial of imprisoned mine activist Albaldo Herrera and Manuel Vasquez. According to organization members, Curidad and other activists awoke to find police surrounding their private home, which serves as a Mize Mambi Institute headquarters. The police also surrounded the headquarters in the Camagüey province, arresting anyone who left the building or tried to approach. All 7 people detained were arrested specifically for attempting to attend the trial of Ubaldo and Manuel Ubaldo, and Manuel were arrested by state security and the National Revolutionary Police under the false charge of attempted assault of a police officer. They've been languishing in conditions unfit for humanity at the Melena del Sur Labor prison. Their trial began today with the stakes at being at least one charge of disturbing enemy propaganda and a hard labor prison sentence up to 7 years. By Friday night, 5 of the 7 detained libertarians have been released. Miguel Lopez Santos and Israel Ruiz Montero are still in custody in Havana. Despite escalating actions by the Cuban government, the Mize Mambi Institute will be publishing a brand new Spanish translations of some Rothbard's work later this summer. It will be the first line of unique original books from the Mambi Institute, proudly continuing the work of Mises and Rothbard right under Raul Castro's nose. Something to really look at. So this is, hey, my friends, this is nothing new at all. And the fact is, it's considered a socialist government. The right to peacefully assemble free speech that be on socialist society conditions, according to the Cuban Constitution. Yes, I've read it before in the past, and you could look it up. Don't be shy. And this is why when people tell me, oh, yeah, fight imperialism and capitalism, but they don't want you to actually be critical towards their government, because then that's considered a threat. All you got to do is read their Cuban Constitution. ConstituteProject.org is a good site to check out. And you'll be surprised. You know what? I'm going to take the initiative on actually putting that out there while we speak. So, and this is why when people tell me how great Castro was and the Cuban government was so fantastic, you know what? When it comes to those particular institutions as a whole, regardless, I don't really have any lovey-dovey towards them, including the United States as well. Just to give you an example, you never trust the government because, as I say again, government in Latin means control of the mind. So I'm going to actually make that happen on ConstituteProject.org. I'm going to post that thing on the Cuban Constitution, and you folks can take the initiative on reading it. The so-called freedom of speech and expression. only in the social society. So they are a lot more conditional, quoting, not criticizing the government is a cardinal sin. So, so, like I always say, friends, always observe responsibly. You know what I'm saying? So, I got the Cuban Constitution right here. Boom. And you can folks to read it yourselves. All right? And this was revised, of course. So definitely put that in there. And finally, I'll be talking about a little commentary from antiwar.com. This was entitled Eyeless in Gaza. Came out today. It's by Yuri Avnery. I have a unique confession to make. I like Gaza. Yes, it's like I like this faraway corner of Palestine, the narrow strip on the way to Egypt, in which 2 million human beings are crowded and which is closer to hell than to heaven. My heart goes out to them. I spent quite a lot of time in the strip. Once or twice I stayed there with Rachel for a couple of days. I became friendly with some people whom I admire. People like Dr. Herbert Abed al-Shafi, the leftist doctor who set up the Gazan health system, and the Rashad al-Shawa, the former mayor of the aristocrat from birth. After the Oslo Agreement, when Yasser Arafat came back to the country and set up his office in Gaza, I met him there many times. I brought him groups of Israelis. On the first day there, he sat me on the dais next to him. A photo of that occasion now looks like science fiction. I even came to know the Hamas people. Before Oslo, when Razak Rabin deported 415 Islamic activists from the country, I took part in setting up protest tents during opposite his office. We played there we lived there together. Jews, Christians, and Muslims, and there were Gush Shalom, and there Gush Shalom was born. After a year, when the deportees were allowed back, I was invited to a public reception for them in Gaza, and found myself speaking to hundreds of bearded faces. Among them were some of today's Hamas leaders. Therefore, I cannot treat the inhabitants of the Gaza Strip as a faceless gray mass of people. I couldn't stop thinking about them during last week's terrible heat wave, about the people languishing in awful conditions without electricity and air conditioning, without clean water, without medicines for the sick. I thought about those living in the houses severely damaged and the last words are not repaired since, about the men and women, the old, the children, the toddlers, and the babies. My heart was bleeding and was asking who was to blame. Yes, who is to blame for this ongoing atrocity? According to the Israelis, the Palestinians themselves are to blame. In fact, the Palestinian leadership and Ramallah had decided to reduce the electricity supply to Gaza from 3 hours a day to 2. The electricity is supplied by Israel and paid by the Palestinian Authority in Ramallah. This seems to be true. Conflict between the Palestinian Authority ruled by Fatah and the Palestinian leadership in Gaza ruled by Hamas has come to an ugly climax. The uninvolved bystander wonders, how can that be? After all, the entire Palestinian people are in existential danger. The Israeli government tyrannizes all Palestinians in the West Bank and in the Gaza Strip. It keeps the Strip under the strangling blockade on land and in the sea and in the air, and is setting up settlements all over the West Bank to drive the population out. In this desperate situation, how can the Palestinians fight each other to the obvious delight of the occupation authorities? That is terrible, but sadly not unique. On the contrary, in almost all liberation struggles, something similar has happened. During the Irish struggle for independence, the freedom fighters fought against each other and even shot each other. During our own struggle for statehood, the Haganah Underground turned Irgun fighters over to the British police, who tortured them and later shot up a ship bringing recruits and arms to Ergon. But these and many others do not justify what's happening now in Gaza. The struggle between Fatah and Hamas on the backs of 2 million people condemn these to inhuman living conditions. As an old friend of the Palestinian people and the fight for liberation, I am deeply saddened. But there are more partners to the atrocious blockade on Gaza. Israel can blockade the Strip only on 3 sides, the 4 sides on the Egyptian border. Egypt, which has in the past fought 4 major wars against Israel on behalf of the Palestinian brothers, and one of which I was wounded by the Egyptian machine gunner, is now participating in the cruel blockade of the Strip. What has happened? How did it happen? Everyone who knows the Egyptian people knows that it is one of the most attractive peoples on earth, a very proud people, a people full of humor even in the most trying circumstances. Several times I heard in Egypt phrases like, "We don't like Palestinians very much, but they are our poor cousins and we cannot abandon them under any circumstances." And here they are, not only abandoning but cooperating with the cruel occupation. All this why? Because the local rulers in Gaza are religious fanatics just like the Muslim brothers in Egypt, who are deadly enemies of today's Pharaoh's General Abd al-Fattah al-Sisi. Because of the enmity, millions in Gaza are punished. Now rumor has it that Egypt would relent if the Gazans accepted an Egyptian stooge as the rule. The Israeli blockade of Gaza is completely dependent on the Egyptian blockade. Proud Egypt, who claims to be the leader of the entire Arab world, has become the handmaiden of the Israeli occupation. Who would have believed it? But the main responsibility for the atrocity in Gaza falls, of course, on us, on Israel. We are the occupiers, a novel type of occupation by blockade. The justification is clear. They want to destroy us. That is the official doctrine of Hamas. The mouse hurls terrible threats against the elephant. True, but like all religious people, they find 100 different ways to cheat God and get around his prohibitions. Hamas has declared the Mahmoud Abbas made peace with Israel, and if the Palestinian people confirm the peace by plebiscite, Hamas would accept it. Also, Islam for the armistice with infidels for any length of time, 10, 50, 100 years. After that, Allah is great. In many ways, in many hidden ways, Israeli does cooperate with Hamas, especially against the even more extremist Islamists in the Strip. We could easily reach a modus vivendi all along the line. So why must the people in Gaza suffer so grievously? No one really knows. Because of the mental laziness of the occupation, because that's what we are used to doing. Here is a mental exercise. What if we did the very opposite? What if we announced to the people in the Gaza Strip the Palestinian Authority of Ramallah is now paying for only 2 hours of electricity a day, but seeing you suffer, Israel has decided to provide you with electricity for 24 hours for free. What would be the effect? How would Hamas react? How would it affect the level of violence and security costs? For the long run, there are many Israeli and international plans, an artificial island in the Mediterranean opposite Gaza, an airport on the island, a deep seaport, peace in fact, even without declarations. I believe it's the wisest way to proceed, but wisdom has little chance. In the meantime, the atrocity goes on. 2 million human beings suffered inhuman treatment. And the world, Eyeless, the world is busy. It has no eyes for Gaza. Better not to think about that awful place. He's a peace activist, journalist, and writer, and former member of the Israeli Knesset. Very interesting indeed. This is why, my friends, the brothers and sisters out there need to unite without government interference. These folks are beautiful individuals. I've never been there, but I can say that. We see in the monumental deception of the mainstream media think they're all wicked people. And that is dangerous. That's called mind control 101. And they need to break that spell of tyranny and think they're some slaves. They are beautiful individuals that can make a difference. Peace in the Middle East across the board without imperialism in that region. Something we have to always look at, my friends, because it can happen anywhere around this world. Is occurring as we speak. To pray for the brothers and sisters in Gaza. May true peace, security, and spiritual prosperity enhance in that part of the world and beyond. And that is it, my friends. I'd like to thank everyone for listening. Plus, feel free to download and share us throughout your social media networks. If you have any questions, comments, or you want to send me something that's interesting you may want to check out, whatever you do, please address your correspondences with decorum. You can hit me on Facebook, Twitter, Google+, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, Tumblr, YouTube, Freedoms Network, Scene.life, Minds.com, FutureNet.club, Patreon.com/LokiLuck3. If you're going to be a donator or sponsor, that'd be awesome. Or you can email me at LokiLuck3, which is number 3, at gmail.com, or LokiLuck03 at protonmail.com. That's the numbers 03 for you encrypted types out there. All right, my friends. Once again, thank you for your time. Plus, always remember that the demoniac resistance is helpful for the soul and can liberate humanity. Until next time, take care of yourselves, keep on spreading love, and may your guardian spirits be with you.